The Unlit House, Episode 3, The Ritual, narrated by Atlas. The following is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously to tell a story. Nothing in this series represents real individuals. Listener discretion is advised. 10:38 at night. December 30th, 2020. Building's quiet. Most of the guys are home for some much-needed time off. I'm one of the ones who likes to stay local and paint the town red. There's a notebook open on the desk and a pen in my hand and an entry I've already started but haven't finished. Underneath the entry are the 3 sentences I've been writing every night for 2.5 months. The ritual, the lock, the way I closed the door. Above those 3 sentences, I'm about to write a 4th. 11 words. That's all it takes. 11 words to undo every wall I've been building since October. I'll get to those 11 words. But first, let me tell you about the ritual. There are men who pray every night, and there are men who write affirmations every night. And there are men who don't know the difference. I'm in the 3rd group. I picked it up somewhere. I won't lie to you until it came to me in a dream. It didn't. Somebody on a podcast said something, or I read it in one of those books I half finished and quoted like I'd read the whole thing. Somewhere in the noise, 3 sentences fell into my lap, and I started writing them down. The first one was, I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Thank you. The second one was, I am a magnet for wealth and money. I accept that money is a positive force for good. I embrace being a rich person fully. And the third one was, the partner I seek is also seeking me. I now release blocks that are standing in between us. 3 sentences, every night, every entry. Underneath whatever else I'd just confessed or boasted or apologized for or schemed about, 3 sentences that stayed the same when nothing else did. That's a ritual. A ritual isn't a habit. A habit is something you do. A ritual is something you do the same way every time, even when the ground is shifting underneath you. Especially when the ground is shifting underneath you. You don't write affirmations because you believe them. You write them because the writing of them is the only thing that day that you got to choose. The sucking up they made you do, the cafeteria food you didn't pick, the room, the schedule, the corporate tie, none of that was yours, but the 3 sentences, those were yours. You picked them up, you wrote them down, you closed the book. Tomorrow you'll do it again. That's the deal. I want to walk you through them, one at a time, slow, because I lived inside these sentences for years. And I want you to understand what they actually meant in the mouth of a man who didn't believe a word of them yet. I am enough. That's a man who has just spent the day around other men who looked more put together than he did. Men with degrees he didn't have. Men with bodies he was still trying to build. Men whose paperwork was clean. Men whose girlfriends called them back. Men who knew exactly what they wanted to be and were already most of the way there. He sits on the edge of his bunk and he writes, I am enough. It is, in that moment, the most ridiculous sentence he could possibly write. He doesn't believe it. Not on day 1, not on day 50, not on day 200. He writes it because the alternative is to write what he actually feels. I am not enough. And he's smart enough to know that you don't write the curse, you write the cure, even when the cure is a lie. You write the cure because you can hear yourself say it, and maybe, eventually, the part of you that hears it will believe it before the part of you that wrote it does. That's how affirmations work. They're not for the writer, they're for the listener inside the writer. I forgive myself. That's a man who has done things in the last week he hasn't told anybody about, will not tell anybody about, has barely told the notebook about, and even then in code. He has lied. He has used charm where compassion would have done more work. He has rotated through women like a dealer in Vegas on the blackjack table. He's written a defense for himself that no jury asked for. And there's one more thing. Something he did to a woman who was not in any rotation, not a bet, not a card in any deck. A woman who had found him a place to live when he had nothing, who had trusted him with something she'd never trusted many people with. And in one moment, one sentence, 11 words in the wrong direction, he had taken that trust and used it like a knife. He's not going to tell you what he said tonight. That story has its own night, its own weight, its own reckoning. But know this, when he writes, "I forgive myself," that moment is somewhere in the room with him, sitting in the corner, not leaving. And on the same page where all of that lives, he writes, "I forgive myself." You hear it, the audacity of it, the cheapness of it, but also the necessity of it. Because if he doesn't forgive himself, he's going to keep paying the debt by hurting other people. The forgiveness is not for him. The forgiveness is for the next woman who walks into his orbit. He's clearing the meters so the next ride doesn't start with charge already owed. That's not a noble thought, I know it's not, but it's the truth of how it worked. All I need is within me now. That one's a prayer pretending to be a fact. A man who needs everything outside of himself, affection, validation, a body in his bed, a paycheck in the mail, a woman who hasn't called him back in a week, sits down and writes, "All I need is within me now." And what he's actually saying is, please, please let it be true. Please let me believe it. Please let me act like it. Please let me stop calling, stop reaching, stop looking at her story to see if she went out tonight. Stop refreshing my account, stop counting the days since the last time somebody told me I was a good man. All I need is within me now. It's a sentence built like a chant, the kind of thing you say at the end of a yoga class while you're shaking. You don't believe it. The teacher knows you don't believe it. But she says it anyway because the saying of it is the practice, not the believing. Thank you. The most important word in the whole affirmation, because if you don't say thank you, the rest of it is just demand. I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Without the thank you, that's just 3 statements about you. With the thank you, it becomes a conversation, a small one, with somebody on the other end, even if you're not sure who that somebody is yet. I wrote thank you before I knew who I was thanking. Some nights, that's enough. The second affirmation was harder. I am a magnet for wealth and money. I accept that money is a positive force for good. I embrace being a rich person fully. I want you to imagine writing that sentence on a Tuesday night in a barracks bunk, where you can hear another man snoring through the wall, while you're checking your account balance on your phone in the dark and watching it tick down toward 0, while you're remembering the last expensive thing you bought that you didn't need, while you're already drafting the apology for next month's rent. I am a magnet for wealth and money. A magnet, brother. You couldn't keep $200 in a savings account for a week. But that's the affirmation, so I wrote it. I accept that money is a positive force for good. That one I had to wrestle with. I came up around money being a problem, around money being the thing parents fought about late at night when they thought the kids were asleep, around money being the thing that made my father do things my mother would later tell me about. Money was charged for me. It wasn't neutral. It wasn't just paper. I accept that money is a positive force for good. Reading that sentence every night was a small act of unlearning. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I was just writing a thing somebody told me to write. But every night I said, positive force for good. I was filing down a piece of the inheritance I had taken on without knowing I had picked it up. I embrace being a rich person fully. That's the part that made me uncomfortable. Because rich was a word that other people were. Rich was the men in the films. Rich was the cousins who went to better schools. Rich was the version of yourself you were supposed to be ashamed of wanting to be. And here was the affirmation telling me, embrace it, fully, don't hedge. Don't say you just want to be comfortable. Don't say you just want enough. Say what you actually want and put it on the page and stop being precious about it. I wrote it every night. I embrace being a rich person fully. Some nights I underlined it. And then there was the third one. The third one was the hardest one to say with a straight face. The partner I seek is also seeking me. I now release blocks that are standing in between us. 2 clauses. The first one says, there is a woman somewhere who is looking for me right now while I am looking for her. The second one says, I am willing to remove whatever is standing between us. I want you to understand what that affirmation meant in the mouth of the man who was writing it. I was, in that period, sleeping with women I did not love, sometimes the same week, sometimes the same building. I was, in that period, telling women what they wanted to hear and walking out of rooms before they could ask me to stay. I was, in that period, holding the door open for ghosts I had supposedly closed it on. I had blocks. I was blocks. I was a man so committed to keeping other people out that I had built myself into a wall and put a doormat in front of me. And I was writing. I now release blocks that are standing in between us, like I was going to wake up the next morning a different man. Like the act of writing, it was going to dissolve the construction I had spent 35 years putting together. It didn't, of course. But the writing of it, every night in pen on a page, started to put a small hairline crack in the wall. And when the wall finally came down, years later, I could trace the cracks back to nights like this one, where I wrote a sentence I didn't believe, and the sentence didn't care that I didn't believe it. The sentence just kept being there, waiting. December 15th, day 75. I wrote, 75 days. We've come a long way. 75 days to be exact, on personal growth. Making sure we set goals to accomplish and being show ready. It has been fun and interesting. I'm looking forward to the extra growth and next 16 years. I am all excited and blessed. Thank you, Lord, for being with me this year and showing me I can, and to believe in myself and be resilient. I don't want to experience calamity. Day 75. That's the first time the practice counted itself. That's the first time I sat down and noticed how many days I had been doing this thing I didn't have a name for. 75 days earlier, I had picked up a notebook because I couldn't see. Now I was sitting on the same bunk 2.5 months later, writing. We've come a long way. We. Read that pronoun again. We. Who's the we? Was it me in the notebook? Me and the version of myself I was trying to become? Me and the God I wasn't sure was listening but had started thanking anyway? I think it was all of them. I think on day 75, the man writing in the notebook had finally noticed that he wasn't writing alone anymore. There was somebody else in the room. The notebook was full of him. The pen was warm from his hand. The affirmations had been running for some number of nights he hadn't bothered to count. And on day 75, he sat down and noticed there was a we in the chair with him. That's growth. It's small. It's invisible to anybody but the man living it. It would not show up in a single photograph. It would not make a highlight reel. It is the kind of growth nobody applauds because nobody sees. But it's the only kind that matters. Christmas Eve, 2020, 1:12 in the morning. December 24th. I wrote 2 words. Tired, A.F. Then the 3 affirmations. Then I closed the notebook. I want you to sit in tired AF with me for a second. Tired of what? The hours? Sure. The training? Yeah. The grind? But also, and this is the part I'm not going to fully open tonight, tired of what I'd been carrying since exactly 1 year before. Because Christmas Eve of 2020 sat exactly 12 months out from the Christmas of 2019, when I had gone home and a conversation had happened in my parents' house that I will tell you about in detail another night. Not tonight. Tonight is the ritual. Tonight is the lock. But know this. When I wrote Tired AF on Christmas Eve of 2020 at 1 in the morning, what I was actually saying, and what only I knew, was that I had been carrying something for 365 days, and the weight of it was finally hitting bone. The affirmations were what I wrote so I could close the book and sleep. Some nights, the ritual is what stands between you and the dark. That's not a metaphor. That is the whole point. December 27th. She came by, Miss Parker. I didn't open the door for her, by the way. She let herself in. Because she had access. Because I had given it to her weeks ago, when the rotation was running smooth and I was still pretending to myself that I wasn't a complete dick. Here, you can come up when you want. That's a man buying himself a witness. That's not generosity, that's branding. So she let herself in, and I could feel it the second she walked through the door. The energy was off. Our season had changed. I knew it. She knew it. Neither of us had said it out loud yet, but the room said it for both of us. She'd seen something, a message on my phone, the kind of message a man like me in that season was getting on a regular basis. I had tried to deflect it, to wave it off like static, but she needed proof. She needed to know I wasn't lying about who sent it. And here's the part that got me. The only reason she knew anything was wrong was because I was not quick enough. I wasn't quick enough to change the name on the conversation. I wasn't quick enough to manipulate the timestamp. I wasn't quick enough to keep her under the lie I had been keeping her in. I had been outrunning my own deceit for weeks. She caught me on a slow day, and in that moment, I want you to hear this part because this is the small turning that the rest of the episode hinges on. I made a decision I had not made before in my life with women. I didn't run a play, no game this time. I wanted to see what would happen if I played a solid hand. Not a good hand, not a winning hand, just a solid one. The truth, more or less. Yeah, you saw what you saw. I'm not going to lie about it. She walked out, and then, because she was a woman and because women understand exits the way men understand games, she came back. She came back to make a point. She wanted me to know she was meeting somebody else that night. She wanted me to feel it. She wanted the door I had left open to slam at me on the way out. I let it slam. I cleared the deck. I was holding a big joker. That's how I lived for those few months, like a man at a card table at 4 in the morning, clearing the deck so I could get a new set, hoping I'd hit, knowing I'd bust. I always busted, even when I hit. I want you to sit with that one. Even when I hit, I busted, because the women weren't the win, the women with the bet. And the only thing I was actually playing for was the next hand, the next deck, the next reset. Anybody who came across the table with me lost, and so did I, every single time, because the dealer was the man who had decided years ago that the house was always going to lose on principle. A man like that has rotated women more than a DJ replaying the same playlist during the holiday season. You know the playlist. You've heard it at every party. The same songs in the same order. Mariah, Wham, Nat King Cole. 3 tracks deep and the DJ thinks he's running a set. The crowd just hears the same loop on every block they walk past, every December. That was me, 3 tracks deep, calling it a set list. Cycling the same women in different clothes through the same room with the same sheets and the same affirmations on the same page. The DJ thinks he's working. The crowd just hears the loop. I let Ms. Parker go that night, and I want to be clear about what I had left when she was gone. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't have a queen. I had a notebook. I had 3 sentences I wrote at the bottom of every entry. I had a body that did push-ups in the morning and held cigarettes on the balcony at night. I had a friend named Horace who didn't make me talk. And I had a dirt bike. That's it. That's what I had cleared the deck to. I made sure she knew it, too, not in words, in the way I let her go. I am leaving you in the dust. The wind will wipe away my tears. If I had any. Ha! I didn't. Tears were for men who hadn't built the wall yet. I had finished mine. The mortar was dry. So I let her walk out, and let her come back, and let her walk out again. And I sat with my joker and my notebook and my dirt bike and my 3 sentences. The partner I seek is also seeking me. Read that one again. With Ms. Parker's perfume still in the room. The partner I sought was not her. I knew that. The notebook knew that. The affirmation, written 1 inch below my own confession that I had just outrun a woman with a grip tighter than her own ambitions, the affirmation knew that too. I was not lying when I wrote it. I was just telling the truth about a woman I hadn't met yet, while still in the apartment of one I was learning to release. That's the contradiction. That's the man. The ritual was the only thing keeping the man from collapsing into the contradiction. December 28th. I wrote, I have not found my partner, and I'm not sure who is seeking me. I've met 2 girls since I wrote the affirmation and had a threesome. Money will get better. I've been blessed. Then it gets worse. I wrote about a woman I'd been with that week, about her body. And what I wrote was the kind of thing a man writes when he has decided that the woman in front of him is not a person, but a problem he is trying to enjoy. I wrote, why does her pussy smell? Just like that. Question optional. Her odor was off. She smelled like trash that had been left outside for a week with the sun beating down on it in mid-July, because somebody, namely me, didn't put it out on time. And now I was inside with her, with the garbage that should have been on the curb a long time ago, teasing my own nostrils for the thrill of it. Because I loved the drama. I really did. I loved being the man who walked into a room he had no business in and stayed. Atlas was dancing with the smell, to appease her, to fill his lustful stomach. Because full was a thing he had never been, and any version of full would do, even the kind that made you want to take a shower for an hour afterward, and write affirmations underneath it like the page would absorb the residue. That's a man with a working nose who decided to stay in the room. That's a man who knew where the door was and stood with his back to it. And then, at the bottom of the same page, he wrote the 3 affirmations. I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Thank you. The partner I seek is also seeking me. The partner he sought was on the curb. The garbage he was inside with was supposed to have been the one at the door, knocking. The whole thing was upside down. He'd opened his door for the trash and left the partner standing in the cold. That entry is the moral problem of the entire universe in 7 sentences. A man wrote a thing he should not have written. And then, on the same page, he wrote, I forgive myself. That's not how forgiveness works, but that's how he was using it. I'm not going to defend him. I'm not going to dress it up. I'm just going to tell you what happened. He wrote it. I read it back. I was him. And I'm sitting here years later still uncovering what he was doing in those rooms and on those pages. The work of becoming a better man does not start the moment you stop being a worse one. It starts the moment you write down what you did and don't tear the page out. December 28th was the page he didn't tear out. December 29th. Most nights when the building went still, Horace and I found ourselves on the balcony. Pack of Marlboro Reds in his coat pocket, the black box, the strong ones, the kind that make you grateful for your lungs by reminding you they exist. We didn't say much. 2 introverts, 2 soldiers, 2 camp chairs, 1 sky. He'd light one and pass me one, and we'd watch the smoke go up together. Separate plumes, same direction, both of them rising like they were trying to reach somebody. He had his somebody. I had mine. We didn't ask each other who. That was the deal between Horace and me. We didn't make each other talk. We just made sure neither of us was alone with the sky. I'd gaze up at those stars and I'd pick one. Not for a wish, for a recipient. Like if I just smoked enough and stared hard enough, the smoke would carry the message. The stars would relay it. The wind would do the rest. And somewhere, in another time zone, in another bed, in another life, the woman I was thinking about would feel it on the back of her neck and turn her head. She never turned her head, but the smoke went up anyway. That's what unrequited love actually is, by the way. It's not the silence, it's the smoke. The smoke goes up, it curls, it catches the light from a street lamp or a star, and then it's gone, and nobody downwind has any idea you ever lit the cigarette. I had been smoking that woman's name for almost a year, but there was another name I didn't send up. There's a woman, not in the rotation, not at the card table, not on the playlist. A woman who stood 6 feet 1 inch without heels and walked into a room like Venus arriving unannounced. Country girl, meat and potatoes. A personality bigger than Don King's afro and a heart bigger than the state of Texas. She found me a place to live when I had nothing. She trusted me with something she didn't trust many people with, and I used it against her. One sentence, at the worst possible moment, to defend the wrong person. She left, and she had every right to. I didn't send her smoke that night. You don't send smoke to someone you owe a debt that big. You just sit with it. Let it stay in the room with you while you write your affirmations and pretend the page can absorb what you did. It can't. But you write anyway. I forgive myself. Sure. I'll get back to her story, I promise you that. But tonight, the smoke was for someone else. Tonight was about the love I couldn't let go of. The other one, the one I wounded worse, she deserved more than a cigarette aimed at a star. She deserved the whole night. That night isn't tonight, but it's coming. I came back inside from the balcony and I opened the notebook and I didn't write a journal entry. I wrote a letter, a freestyle, a poem, a song with no melody. It came out in fragments, like the sentences themselves were puffs of smoke going up into a dark room, hoping somebody downwind would see the shape of them and understand. I'm in trace like a gazelle trying to escape from what's chasing me, and yet I am the king, Mufasa. I roar raw and I hit it raw and I still feel nothing. You only made me feel. Why am I still on the deep end? I thought I could spend my life with you, here. I don't know what to do. You were my best friend. I needed you still to be my wife. Oops, Freudian slip. I miss you. I love you. And at the bottom, the code. I'm not going to give you the code. The code stays between her and me. Let's just say it was the kind of thing two people make up so they can say I love you in a room full of other people. The kind of thing that means nothing to anyone else and everything to the two of you. She had her half, I had mine. You complete the count, you complete the love. I wrote my half on the page that night. Her half stayed where she was, in a city she hadn't told me about, in a bed I had no claim to. I was sending up smoke, cigarette after cigarette, page after page, smoke after smoke. She had stopped looking up, but I was still sending it. That's the kind of man who fills a notebook in the dark. That's the kind of man who needs the affirmations. That's the kind of man who's about to write the 11 words that finally name the thing. The next night, December 30th, 2020. 10:38 at night, same desk, same chair, same pen, same notebook, same hour, almost down to the minute, and I wrote, maybe the universe knows something I don't know, and subconsciously I am deflecting. That's the door cracking open. Then I wrote, I want a woman who gets me and lets me be me. That's the door creaking. And then, between the two, the 11 words I told you about at the top of this episode. 11 words, in pen, on a page. After 10 weeks of fuck love and 3 weeks of I'm shooting my shot and swerving and 2 months of writing a defense for myself that no jury had asked for, I wrote, I know I love her, but I am not holding on to her. Read that with me. I know I love her. That's the man who said fuck love. But I am not holding on to her. That's the same man, 2 months later, writing the bargain. He's not over her. He's not lying about that anymore. He's been outed by his own hand, in his own pen, in his own notebook, on a Wednesday night, 10:38 at night. But he's also not waiting for her. He's letting go while still loving. And I want you to understand why he loved her. Because love is a generous word, and I'm not sure it's the right one. He loved her the way a victim loves an abuser. He loved her because she was the reason he was where he was, the reason he had a notebook in his lap on this Wednesday night, the reason he had the rotation, the wall, the deck, the joker, the ritual. That's not a love song. That's a hostage situation he was beginning to thank the captor for. And that is why he had to release her. Because if he had sent her a single message that night, he would have been the woman in the relationship I would never want to be in. The one who explains away the bruises, the one who calls every fist an accident, the one who packs the bag and unpacks it the same night because he didn't mean it that time, and he won't mean it next time either. I knew with a clarity that scared me that if I texted her, if I picked up the phone and sent her the code the way I had 100 times in our run, she would either ignore me, which would break me, or she would answer, which would break me worse. Because answering would mean the cycle had another lap in it, and I had run enough laps in that lane to know what was at the end of the next one. It was the same room, on the same bunk, writing the same affirmations 6 months from now, having done the same thing again. So I didn't text her. I wrote about her instead. And the writing of it in the notebook, was a way of saying it without sending it, a way of getting it out of my system without putting it back into hers. That's growth, brothers. Small, invisible, uncelebrated. Nobody knew. The notebook knew, the pen knew, the chair I was sitting in knew. The cigarette I had stubbed out on the balcony 45 minutes earlier knew. I felt a sign of growth that night. I was still hurting, but for the first time the notebook revealed its purpose. The notebook was the way out, not the way back. The next day, December 31st, I wrote about a business idea, a delivery service. I called it Delivery by Atlas. 10 toes down. I'm not going to pretend I knew what it meant when I wrote it. I didn't. I had been reading Think and Grow Rich the night before, and I had been talking to a friend about his water business at the gym, and I walked back to my room with an idea I thought was going to change my life. I give it a name. I give it a tagline. I went to bed proud of myself, but here's what I didn't realize at the time. Delivery by Atlas was the name. 10 toes down was the actual mission. Anybody who's 10 toes down stands firm on what they say, unwavering, doesn't shift the weight to one side, doesn't lift a heel, doesn't get caught looking for the exit. I said what I said, both feet planted. Come at me. The night before, on December 30th, I had written, I am not holding on to her, and I had meant it. The next morning, I named a business after the posture I was about to spend the next year trying to actually inhabit. 10 toes down. I wasn't there yet, but I had named it. A man names a thing before he becomes it. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Let there be light came before the light. The naming is the summon. The naming is the spell. Delivery by Atlas, 10 toes down, was a tagline for a delivery business that would never actually launch. But it was also the prayer for the man I was going to need to become. You want to know what I delivered for the next 3 years? Not packages, not laundry. Me. Day after day, page after page, woman after woman, affirmation after affirmation, I was delivering Atlas to himself. Showing up at my own door, standing on my own porch. 10 toes down. Knocking, saying, here's the man you ordered. Sign for him. The notebook was the receipt. I closed the notebook on December 31st with the same 3 sentences I had been closing it with for 2.5 months. I am enough. I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. Thank you. I am a magnet for wealth and money. I accept that money is a positive force for good. I embrace being a rich person fully. The partner I seek is also seeking me. I now release blocks that are standing in between us. The ritual, the lock, the way I close the door. And the next night, I opened it again. That's the whole show. That's the whole point. That's the only reason any of this works. You write the affirmation. You don't believe it. You write it anyway. You go to sleep. You wake up. You do something that makes a liar of the affirmation. You sit down again that night. You write it again. You think you're failing. You're not. You're carving. The affirmation is the chisel. The page is the stone. The you that believes is the statue inside the stone. And you don't get to see the statue while you're carving. You only get to see the dust. It took me years to see the statue, but the dust was on every page. And here's the thing. I'm allowed to use that metaphor because I am a god. That's not arrogance. That's etymology. Atlas, the Titan, the one with the weight of the world on his shoulders. The one who carries the sky so the rest of you don't have to feel it. I am Atlas. I am the god who bears the weight. But, and this is where the chisel got sharper than I knew, I am a mere god, lowercase. There is only one capital G God in this house, and it's not me. He wrote his affirmations in stone long before mine, handed them to a man named Moses on a mountain. 10 of them, carved, permanent. No redo, no edit, no version 2. And I read them now, and I see exactly where I fail. Thou shalt not commit adultery. I lust. I have been writing the partner I seek affirmation while doing the opposite of it for months. The stone says no. My pen says, but. Honor thy father and thy mother. I have a father whose lights stay on, and I have a mother who told me things at Christmas that make honoring him the hardest commandment of all. I am, on this December night, struggling to honor either of them in the way the stone demands, and I am writing about it sideways, in code, in smoke, in affirmations, hoping the affirmations are doing the work that I am not. I am a god, lowercase. I have a chisel. I have a stone of my own, these notebooks, these pages, this ritual. But the stone I actually need is the one he chooses not to throw. You know the line, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. He has the right. He is the only one with the right. He could let it fall on me at any moment if he kept the score the way I would keep it on myself. And he doesn't. That's the gospel. That's the reason a man can write, I forgive myself, on the same page where he did the things I did, and not be struck dead before he closes the book. The forgiveness is not because he earned it. The forgiveness is because the only one who could throw the stone won't. All the weight I bear, and brother, I shudder under it. He is the only one who can actually take it. That's Atlas's secret. The Titan was the figure for the weight, but the cross was the figure for the lifting. And every night, when I write thank you at the end of I am enough, I forgive myself. All I need is within me now. I am thanking the one who refuses to throw the stone. I just didn't know that yet. Not on December 30th, 2020. I was still writing affirmations to a God I wasn't sure was listening, while bearing a weight I wasn't sure I could put down. But the chisel was moving, and the dust was on the page. I am Atlas, a god, lowercase, bearing the weight, thanking the one who can take it. And even when the lights are on, they're off. But the notebook is open, the pen is moving, and the chant is still going. Next week on The Unlit House, The Visit. 1 year before the night Atlas wrote Tired AF at 1 in the morning, he had gone home for Christmas, to a house with a man who couldn't sleep with the lights off. and a woman who needed to tell her son something before it was too late. Everything you've heard so far, every wall, every ritual, every notebook entry, every woman he treated like a pit stop, every line of powder, every door he closed, it all started with the conversation he had in that house. And next week, for the first time, he's going to tell you what she said.